Central America consists of 7 distinct but kinda similar countries whom all have a noticeable population of Amerindians or the indigenous population in the area, and mestizos, people who are mixed European and Amerindian descent. The general area of Central America consists of rainforests, mountains, and volcanoes. One of these countries in this area is Panama. Panama is home to the very first Spanish settlement in Central America. Fast forwarding a few centuries, Panama has the highest and fastest economic growth in Latin America and has strong business ties with many other countries around the world. Why is that, you may ask? Well, Panama's major economic income comes mainly from commerce, banking, and tourism. But as you may have guessed by the title, one of the most significant sources of income and landmark is the Panama Canal. The earliest proposal of a construction of a route for ships through Panama was first mentioned in 1534 when the Holy Roman Emperor and King of Spain Charles V ordered a survey for a canal through the Americas that would ease the voyage for ships traveling between Spain and Peru. This would give the Spanish Empire a significant military advantage over the Portuguese. However, the plans were never ratified under the Spanish Empire. On January 1, 1881, the very first attempt to construct the canal began under the command of French diplomat Ferdinand de Lesseps, who helped with the construction of the Suez Canal over 10 years earlier. Although the Panama Canal was supposed to be only 40% of the length of the Suez Canal, it was much more of an engineering challenge due to the extensively difficult terrain, as was the fact that Panama's dry season lasted only for 4 months of the year, which became a concern. The area also contained multiple tropical diseases such as yellow fever and malaria, which proved to be fatal, as the workers' death rate rose to over 200 deaths a month in 1884. In 1904, the United States, under the lead of Theodore Roosevelt, purchased the French equipment and excavations, including the Panama Railroad, which helped to start the French construction of the canal. All of the surrounding area and property went under American ownership. Roosevelt was convinced that the US Navy needed a quick access to the Pacific Ocean, and this canal would be the only way to achieve it. The problem was that at the time, Panama was still just a region of Colombia. Colombia didn't like the idea that the US would control the canal, so the United States and the region of Panama signed a treaty, where as soon as Panama would gain independence from Colombia, the canal would fall fully under US control. So, on November 3, 1903, Panama seceded from Colombia and proclaimed its independence under the pressure of the Panamanian separatist movement, which was supported by the US government. As promised, the United States could finally begin the reconstruction of the Panama Canal. This massive project was finally completed about 10 years later in 1914, 2 years ahead of the estimated completion date of 10th of June 1916. The maiden voyage across the now completed canal was made on the 15th of August 1914 by the cargo ship SS Ancon. In the coming years, it would become the lifeline of global trade and travel. 5% of all the world's trade would cross this canal. Its political and financial impact became hard to comprehend. Today, 30% of Panama's economy is dependent on the Panama Canal. However, during the mid-1900s, tensions between Panama and the United States continued to rise as Panama wanted the control of the canal and thought it was rightfully theirs. After multiple debates, in 1977, the US President Jimmy Carter promised the control of the Panama Canal back to Panama in 1999, with the terms of having the canal as a neutral waterway.
Your own strong feelings about the Panama Canal Treaty of 1903, drafted in a world so different from ours today, has become an obstacle to better relations with Latin America.
This happened as promised after the US invaded Panama in 1989 to overthrow Panama's leader Manuel Noriega. The canal became fully controlled by Panama on the last day of the millennium on the 31st of December 1999. Afterwards, an expansion of the canal was considered and work began in 2007 and was concluded in 2016. So, how does the Panama Canal work? Well, the canal is about an 80-kilometer, about 50-mile long waterway connecting the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. The Panama Canal uses a system of locks that function kind of like water elevators, raising and lowering the ships from sea level to the artificial Gatun Lake and vice versa. It usually takes about 8 minutes to fill up one of these lock chambers to access the Gatun Lake, and the ships inside are translated by locomotives. This operation usually repeats itself on the 3 sets of locks in the canal, and to get from ocean to ocean, the transit usually takes about 8 to 10 hours to complete. As mentioned earlier, the newest expansion of the Panama Canal was finished in 2016, in which 2 new sets of locks were constructed on both ends of the canal. This was done to let larger and wider ships pass through safely. You see, the larger vessels crossing the canal are divided into 2 groups based on their size: the ordinary Panamax ships and the larger post-Panamax ships. These post-Panamax ships simply couldn't pass through the locks before the expansion of 2016, and the cargo had to be unloaded on the shore and transported with an alternative method. Very many Panamax ships today are barely squeezing through, in which case the captain of the ship would do something here that they wouldn't do anywhere else in the world: give up the wheel. As the ship nears the locks, the captain surrenders the ship before a pilot and 2 tugboats help guide the ship through the locks. The expansion of the canal is the second largest earth-moving project in history, only behind the construction of the first canal. To give you a scale how big this project was, they moved more earth here than they did on the New York subway system and the 3 gorges dam in China combined, and they don't even come close to the amount of land moved in Panama from 2007 to 2016. All in all, a significant portion of the world's economy has some ties to this one canal that connects 2 oceans, where thousands of people lost their lives through diseases and accidents over 100 years ago, but is today considered one of the most significant engineering feats and is one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. We can't tell what the future holds for the Panama Canal, as it slowly evolves one decade at a time. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, drop a like, obviously. If you enjoyed this type of content, subscribe, and check out my latest video by clicking right here.